There is a version of career advice that gets thrown around constantly, and it sounds really empowering until you actually look at your bank account. You'll see it in comments, in response videos, everywhere. Just set boundaries. Just leave. Life is too short to stay somewhere that doesn't value you. And sure, in a perfect world, that's the move. But rent is not a vibe. Your kid's daycare bill is not a vibe. Your health insurance, your car note, your credit card you've been chipping away at since 2021, none of that is a vibe. That's your actual life. And the reality is that a lot of you are in jobs right now that you cannot walk away from yet. Not today. Not without consequences you are not ready to absorb. And I want to talk to you directly because most of the content out there is not made for the person who has to stay. It's made for people who already have the runway to leave. So I'm Dre, and today we're going to talk about how you survive a job you can't quit without losing your mind in the process. Because staying is not the same as surrendering. It does not mean you accept being miserable. It means you are being strategic, and there is a difference. So let's get into it. 6 ways to protect your peace when you can't leave your job yet. Number 1. Stop making your job mean something it was never supposed to mean. This one is probably the hardest shift to make, and it is also the one that will give you the most immediate relief. So many people are suffering at work not because the job itself is impossible, but because they have made it personal. They need their manager to see them. They need their coworkers to appreciate the effort they put in. They want to feel like what they do matters to the people around them. And I understand that completely. You spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day in that building. Of course it starts to feel like it's about more than money. But here is what you need to understand. Your employer is not running a feelings operation. They are running a business. The relationship between you and your job is a transaction. You provide labor and expertise, and they provide compensation. That is the whole agreement. It was never designed to validate you. And when you expect it to, you are setting yourself up to feel like you are not enough over and over again. The moment you stop needing your job to be more than what it is, you take back an enormous amount of power. It is a contract, not a calling. Treat it like one. Number 2. Get very selective about what you engage with. A workplace that is stressful is almost always also a workplace that is full of noise. There are people who feed on drama. There are managers who communicate through pressure and intimidation. There are passive-aggressive emails, loaded comments in meetings, side conversations that are designed to pull you in and get you reacting. And here is the thing. None of that is your obligation to participate in. You do not have to take the bait every time someone throws it. You do not have to respond to every dig, defend yourself against every implication, or match someone's negative energy just because they pointed it in your direction. Disengagement is a skill, and it is one of the most protective things you can develop in a difficult work environment. When you stop reacting, you stop being a useful target. People who are looking for a reaction will move on when they consistently do not get one from you. And I know that sounds easier than it feels in the moment. When someone throws shade in a team meeting or undermines you in front of the group, every instinct you have says to respond. But the professional who is playing the long game knows that not every moment requires a response. Silence and stillness, used correctly, communicate confidence. Your peace at work is determined less by what happens around you and more by what you choose to respond to. You are not required to explain yourself to people who are not your supervisors. You are not required to defend your decisions to coworkers who have no authority over your role. Start protecting your attention like it is a resource, because it is. Number 3. Keep your personal life off the floor. This one tends to make people uncomfortable, but I need you to hear it clearly. Oversharing at work is a liability. I know it does not feel that way in the moment. You are spending so much time with these people that it feels natural to open up. Someone asks how your weekend was, and before you know it, you are telling them about your relationship problems, your finances, your anxiety, your plans to look for a new job. It feels like connection. But in a workplace context, information is not neutral. People are not always conscious of how they use what you tell them, but they use it. When decisions are being made about promotions, about who gets pulled into a high visibility project, about who gets managed out when times get tight, what people know about your personal situation can and does factor in. Your plans, your fears, your vulnerabilities, your outside obligations. None of that belongs in the workplace. You can be warm without being an open book. You can be a good colleague without narrating your life to people whose interests may not align with yours. Keep the conversation professional and light. Talk about the work. Talk about the weather. Talk about whatever sports team everyone in the office pretends to care about. But save your real story for people who are not connected to your income. Your coworkers need your output. They do not need your history. Number 4, build a version of yourself specifically for work and use it. Before you close out of this video, because that sounded fake, stay with me for a second. This is not about being dishonest or performing a character that has nothing to do with who you are. What I am describing is something much more practical. Think of it as using a specific gear. At work, you are operating in professional mode. That version of you is calm. That version of you is measured. It does not get visibly rattled when someone is difficult. It does not get pulled into conversations that are not productive. It does not bring its personal frustrations into the room, and it does not wear its emotions on its sleeve. That is not suppression. That is strategy. You are choosing which parts of yourself are appropriate for which environment. When you clock in, you bring your professional self. When you clock out, you get to be your whole self again. Most people who say they cannot separate the two have actually just never practiced it intentionally. The separation is learnable. And once you build that boundary between who you are at work and who you are everywhere else, work stops bleeding into the rest of your life the way it currently does. It stops following you home. It stops waking you up at 3 in the morning. The professional persona is a container. Use it. Number 5, start documenting everything starting today. Here is where I need you to think like someone who is running a business, because that is actually what you are doing. You are managing your own career, which is your most valuable professional asset. And in any business, you keep records. You do not wait until something goes wrong to start writing things down. You do not wait until you are blindsided by a bad performance review or a sudden shift in how your manager is treating you before you wish you had receipts. You build the paper trail before you need it. Save emails that document your work and your results. Write down conversations that felt significant with dates and specifics. Screenshot messages that matter. Keep all of it somewhere that is not your work computer, not your work email, not anything your employer can access or delete. Your employer is doing this continuously on their end. Every verbal counseling, every written warning, every performance note goes into your file. They are building a record, and you need to be building one too. This is not paranoia. This is just understanding how these situations actually play out. If you ever need to protect yourself, legally or professionally, the person with documentation wins. The person with vague memories of how things used to be does not. Make it a habit. 5 minutes at the end of the day to write down what happened, what was said, and who was present. Do it consistently so that if you ever need to reference it, it looks like the routine it actually was. Because when your manager praised your project in an email last March and then tries to build a case against you in October, you want that March email saved somewhere they cannot touch it. That is not being dramatic. That is being prepared. Number 6, build a life that work does not have access to. If your job is taking everything from you, part of the reason might be that there is nothing else competing for your attention. When work is your whole world, a hard day at work is a hard day of your life. A bad week at work is a bad week of your life. You do not have anything to come home to that resets you. And that is a dangerous position to be in because it makes the job feel much bigger and more defining than it actually is. You need to have things outside of work that you genuinely look forward to. Not just things you do to decompress from work, but things that exist completely apart from it. Relationships where work is not the topic. Interests that have nothing to do with your job title. Physical spaces, routines, or communities that remind you that you are a person first and an employee second. This matters more than people realize. Think about what happens to someone whose entire identity is wrapped up in a job that does not value them. Every slight becomes a wound. Every bad review becomes a referendum on who they are. They go home and they cannot stop thinking about it because there is no other version of their life pulling them back to themselves. When you have a full life outside of work, you stop showing up to work desperate. You stop needing the job to be your everything because it is already just one part of a bigger picture. That shift in your relationship to work changes how you carry it, how much of it you absorb, and how much of it you take home with you. Here is the thing I want you to walk away with today. If you cannot leave your job right now, you are not stuck. You are in a strategic holding period. You are managing a difficult situation with intention while you build towards something better. And that is not weakness. That is discipline. You do not need to love what you do right now. You do not need to win every room you walk into. You do not need your manager's approval or your coworkers' validation. You need to walk out of that building every day with your paycheck, your dignity, and your peace of mind still intact. And if you are doing that while quietly building toward your exit, you are doing exactly what you are supposed to be doing. Keep going. If this hit for you, subscribe. There is a lot more where this came from.